The wind howled like a banshee, cutting right through Emily's thin coat. Chicago winters, man, they were brutal. Especially when you're pushing a stroller with your little girl Lily, bundled up inside, her big brown eyes staring back at you, full of trust. Trust you don't deserve. Another day, another dollar, or maybe just a few measly cents. Outside O'Malley's pub, the usual spot. The smell of beer and fried food hung in the air, a cruel reminder of what Emily couldn't afford. Then it happened. Bam! The sleekest, blackest town car Emily had ever seen pulled up right in front of her. November snow was coming down hard now, swirling around the streetlights like tiny, angry ghosts. The back door opened, and out stepped a man. Richard. Old money written all over him. Tailored suit, silver hair, and eyes. Damn, those eyes? Full of a sadness that mirrored the ache in Emily's own heart. He just stood there for a minute, looking at her, like he was seeing something nobody else could. Richard. They said he was a recluse, a self-made millionaire who'd lost his wife years ago. Rumor had it he never even smiled anymore. But he was smiling now. He walked over to Emily, ignoring the snow. "Miss," he said, his voice raspy but kind, "I'd like to make you an offer." Emily raised an eyebrow. An offer? What kind of offer? She wasn't born yesterday, you know. "A warm place to stay," Richard said, ignoring her suspicion. "A chance to get back on your feet." Emily scoffed. Yeah, right. What's the catch? But desperation was winning. Lily started coughing, a tiny rattling sound that sent a jolt of fear through Emily's body. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'll bite." Next morning, they were driving far, far away from the city, past fancy houses, past green lawns covered in white, all the way to Lake Forest. Richard's place wasn't a house, it was an estate. A freaking mansion. Lily's eyes went wide, clutching her beat-up teddy bear like it was a lifeline. Servants in uniforms. Artwork Emily couldn't even begin to understand. A silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, a sweet lady with a warm smile, led them to their room. Bright, cozy, overlooking gardens buried in snow. Later, dinner. A long dinner. Polished table, silverware Emily didn't know how to use, and Richard, watching her with those intense eyes. "I want to help you, Emily," he said. "Get an education. Give Lily a future. My own son, Jason, he squandered every opportunity I gave him. He even talked about a trust fund for Lily. Then, boom, Jason arrived, like a storm cloud. He took one look at Emily and Lily, his face twisted with disgust. "What's this, father?" he sneered. "Playing savior to the downtrodden now? Don't tell me you finally found a replacement family." Richard's jaw tightened. "Jason, show some respect. Emily and Lily are my guests." Jason laughed, a cold, nasty sound. "Guests? Or the newest gold diggers? I wouldn't be so quick to trust them, father. People aren't always what they seem." He fixed Emily with a stare that could freeze hell over. "Everyone has a past, doesn't she? I wonder what secrets Miss Emily is hiding." He stormed out, leaving Emily shivering. What was Jason implying? What did he know? And what was he gonna do about it? "Hey, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, Preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você tá aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. E me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Jason laughed, a cold, nasty sound. Guests or the newest gold diggers? I wouldn't be so quick to trust them, Father. People aren't always what they seem. He fixed Emily with a stare that could freeze hell over. Everyone has a past, doesn't she? I wonder what secrets Miss Emily is hiding. He stormed out, leaving Emily shivering. What was Jason implying? What did he know, and what was he gonna do about it? Sleep was impossible that night. Every creak of the mansion sounded like Jason, every shadow like a threat. Lily slept soundly beside her, oblivious to the storm brewing. Emily stared at the ceiling, replaying Jason's words. What was he going to dig up? The truth was, Emily had plenty to hide. The next day started normal enough. Mrs. Higgins brought breakfast. Lily played in the massive gardens, snow-free, thanks to heated walkways. And Richard even seemed more cheerful. He talked about enrolling Emily in night classes, about Lily attending the best schools. It was a fairy tale, too good to be true. Then the doorbell rang. Not just a ring, but a pounding, like someone was trying to break the door down. Mrs. Higgins rushed to answer it, and a moment later, Jason burst into the room, his face red with fury. He wasn't alone. 2 uniformed cops stood behind him. "There she is!" Jason yelled, pointing at Emily. "That's her! That's the woman who conned my brother out of everything!" Emily froze. Conned? Brother? What the hell was he talking about? Richard looked like he'd been punched in the gut. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with disbelief. One of the cops stepped forward. "Emily Carter?" he asked, his voice flat. "We have a warrant for your arrest. Fraud, grand theft, and this is a new one. Suspected homicide." Homicide? They cuffed her. Right there, in front of Lily, who started screaming, clutching Emily's leg. Mrs. Higgins was crying. Richard was silent, staring at Emily with a look of utter betrayal. Jason just smirked. As they dragged her away, Emily saw the headline on the tabloid Jason was holding. "Black Widow strikes again. Serial con artist targets wealthy widowers." Underneath was a picture of her, but not her as Emily. A different hairstyle, different clothes. But the same eyes, the same desperate, haunted eyes. And that's when it hit her. That's when she remembered. Her real name wasn't Emily Carter. It was something else. Something she'd buried so deep she'd almost forgotten. And the man she'd conned, the brother Jason was talking about, he hadn't just been conned. He'd ended up dead. But she hadn't killed him. Had she? As the police car sped away, Emily looked back at Richard's mansion, at Lily's tear-streaked face in the window. She knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. And she had no idea who she really was anymore, or what she was truly capable of. But one thing was clear. She would do anything to protect Lily. Anything at all. even if it meant embracing the monster she'd tried so hard to bury. The question was, could she control it, or would it consume her completely? As the police car sped away, Emily looked back at Richard's mansion, at Lily's tear-streaked face in the window. She knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival, and she had no idea who she really was anymore, or what she was truly capable of. But one thing was clear. She would do anything to protect Lily, anything at all, even if it meant embracing the monster she'd tried so hard to bury. The question was, could she control it, or would it consume her completely? The jail cell was cold, concrete and steel. The smell of disinfectant couldn't mask the stench of despair. Emily sat on the bunk, her head in her hands, Lily's screams echoing in her ears. Fraud, grand theft, homicide. It was a nightmare, one she couldn't wake up from. Then the door clanged open. A woman, sharp suit, even sharper eyes. "Emily Carter?" she asked, her voice all business. "I'm Agent Walker, FBI." FBI? What the hell? Emily straightened up, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. "What do you want?" "We know about your past, Emily," Walker said, leaning against the doorframe. "We know about the cons, the missing money, the dead husband." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But we also know you didn't kill him." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Then why am I here?" "Because we need your help," Walker said, her eyes locking on to Emily's. "We've been tracking a network of criminals for years. High-stakes fraud, money laundering, even murder. And we think you're the key to taking them down." Emily stared at her, disbelief warring with a desperate desire to believe. "Me? How?" "Your unique talents," Walker said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "You're a natural con artist, Emily. We need you to use those skills to infiltrate their organization." Emily scoffed. "You want me to be a snitch?" "More than that," Walker said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We want you to become one of them." Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the jail. A woman's voice, filled with raw, animalistic terror. Emily's head snapped up, every nerve on high alert. "What was that?" she asked, her heart pounding. Walker hesitated, her face grim. "Just standard procedure," she said, too quickly. But Emily wasn't buying it. She could hear the fear in Walker's voice, a subtle tremor that betrayed her composure. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. "Tell me what's going on," Emily demanded, her voice rising. "What did you do?" Walker sighed, running a hand through her hair. "There was a complication. Someone inside the organization found out about us. We had to extract them." "Extract them?" The scream. It was the extraction. Emily's blood ran cold. They weren't just playing games. They were playing for keeps. "You used her as bait," Emily said, her voice barely a whisper. "You sacrificed her." Walker didn't deny it. Her silence was a confirmation. Then, a new sound filled the air. A slow, deliberate tapping, coming from the wall behind Emily's bunk. Tap, tap, tap. A code. Emily froze, her mind racing. A code? Who was sending it? And what did it mean? She strained her ears, trying to decipher the message. Tap, 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 tap. It was Morse code. And as she listened, Emily began to understand. The message was simple, terrifying. Run. They know everything. Lily is not safe. Emily's world shattered. They knew about Lily. They were going to hurt her. But who sent the message? And how could they know so much? Then she saw it, scratched into the concrete wall, barely visible in the dim light. A name. Richard. Her head swam. Richard, the millionaire who'd saved her? He was warning her? But why? And then it hit her. A revelation so shocking, so impossible, it made her knees weak. Richard wasn't just a lonely widower. He wasn't just a kind benefactor. Richard was the head of the criminal organization the FBI was trying to take down. And he'd been playing her all along. Lily, too. The kindness, the mansion, the offers of help, it was all a lie. A carefully constructed trap. And she had walked right into it. Richard, the head of the organization, using her, using Lily. Rage exploded in Emily. A raw, primal fury she hadn't felt since before Lily. Before she'd tried to bury the darkness inside. Agent Walker was still talking, laying out her plan. But Emily wasn't listening. All she could see was Lily's face, hear Lily's cries. Richard had put her baby in danger. He was going to pay. "I'm in," Emily said, her voice cold. "But on my terms." Walker raised an eyebrow. "And what are those?" "Lily," Emily said. "I need her safe, hidden. And I need to know she's okay every single day." Walker hesitated, then nodded. "We can arrange that." Hours later, Emily was out, free, but not really. She was a pawn in a much bigger game, a game orchestrated by Richard. They took her to a safe house, a dingy apartment in a forgotten part of town. It was clean, functional, but soulless, just like her life was about to become. The FBI gave her a new identity, a new backstory. They trained her, honed her skills. They turned her into a weapon aimed at Richard. Days turned into weeks. Emily learned everything she could about Richard's organization. The money laundering, the drug trafficking, the murders. It was all there, a web of corruption that reached the highest levels of power. She was ready to face Richard, ready to destroy him. Then the call came. Walker's voice, urgent, breathless. "Emily, we have a problem. Richard knows. He knows you're working with us." Emily's blood ran cold. How? How could he know? "He's planning something," Walker said. "Something big. We don't know what, but it involves Lily." Lily, again. Emily's fist clenched. "Where is she?" "She's safe," Walker said. "We moved her, but we don't know how long she'll be safe." "Richard has eyes everywhere." Emily didn't hesitate. "I'm going to him." "Are you crazy?" Walker shouted. "That's exactly what he wants." "Maybe," Emily said, "but I'm not letting him use Lily as bait. I'm ending this now." She hung up the phone, her heart pounding. She knew it was a trap, but she didn't care. Lily was all that mattered. She drove to Richard's mansion, the same mansion where she'd once dreamed of a better life. Now it felt like a tomb. The gates were open. No security. Too easy. She walked through the front door, her hand on the gun hidden beneath her coat. Richard was waiting for her in the living room, sitting in a chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked calm, almost peaceful. "Emily," he said, a smile playing on his lips, "I've been expecting you." "Where's Lily?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking with rage. Richard chuckled. "Safe, for now." "Let her go," Emily said. "Let her go and I'll walk away." Richard shook his head. "I'm afraid that's not possible. You know too much." He stood up, his eyes filled with a chilling sadness. "I truly believed I could help you, Emily. I saw something in you, a spark, a potential for greatness." "Greatness?" Emily spat. "You're a monster." "Perhaps," Richard said, "but I did what I had to do to protect what's mine." He raised his hand, and suddenly the room was filled with men, armed men, surrounding her. Emily didn't flinch. She knew this was coming. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, her voice steady. Richard smiled. "You should be." Then the lights went out. Darkness, screams, gunshots. Emily dove for cover, firing her gun blindly into the darkness. Chaos. When the lights came back on, the room was a mess. Bodies on the floor, blood everywhere. Richard was gone. But then she saw her, Lily, standing in the doorway, a gun in her hand, a smoking gun. And standing in front of her, lying on the floor, was Agent Walker, dead. Lily looked at Emily, her eyes empty. "I protected you, Mommy," she said, her voice flat. "Like you always protected me." "I protected you, Mommy," she said, her voice flat. "Like you always protected me." The gun slipped from Lily's hand, clattering on the marble floor. The silence after was deafening, broken only by my ragged breathing. Walker, dead. Lily, a killer? My Lily? My legs felt like lead. I stumbled towards her, my mind reeling. "Lily, what did you do?" Her eyes were blank, unseeing. "He was going to hurt you, Mommy. I couldn't let him." "Hurt me? Walker?" It didn't make any sense. Walker was FBI. She was supposed to be helping us. Then I saw it, the small silver locket around Lily's neck. I hadn't noticed it before. It wasn't hers. I reached for it, my fingers trembling. Lily didn't resist. I flipped it open. Inside, a tiny photograph. A man, older, with kind eyes and a warm smile. I didn't recognize him, but Lily did. "Grandpa," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Grandpa?" My head spun. I didn't understand. Who was this man? And what did he have to do with Lily? Then it hit me, a memory buried deep in my subconscious. A photograph, the same man. A photograph my mother had kept hidden away. A photograph she'd clutched to her chest on her deathbed. My father. But that was impossible. My mother had told me he was dead, killed in a car accident before I was born. A lie. All a lie. And now, looking at Lily, a chilling realization dawned on me. Lily wasn't just my daughter. She was his granddaughter. And somehow he'd been in her life all along. But who was he? What was his name? I grabbed Lily's hand, desperate for answers. "Lily, who gave you this locket? Who is your grandpa?" Her eyes flickered, a spark of recognition. He told me to protect you, Mommy. Always, no matter what. But who is he, Lily? Tell me." She hesitated, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then she spoke a name, A name that shattered my world. A name that turned everything I thought I knew upside down. His name is Richard. Richard Hawthorne. Richard? My Richard? The millionaire? Lily's grandfather? It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. But it all made sense now. The kindness, the generosity, the way he looked at Lily. He wasn't just helping us. He was protecting his family. But if Richard was my father, why had he lied? Why had he abandoned my mother? And why had he put Lily in danger? I stared at Lily, my heart breaking. She was just a child, caught in a web of lies and deceit. And I, her mother, had unknowingly walked us both right into the center of it. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the doorway. Well, well, well. Looks like the family reunion is complete. I turned to see Richard standing there, a gun in his hand, a cruel smile on his face. "Hello, Emily," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Or should I say, daughter? "Hello, Emily," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Or should I say, daughter? Daughter? My head was swimming. This couldn't be real. It was too much. Richard, my father? Lily, my daughter? His granddaughter? Walker dead, killed by Lily. Because of him? I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. I looked at Lily, her face pale and drawn, and then back at Richard, the man I'd hated. The man who was supposed to be my enemy. The man who was supposed to be dead. You're my father? I choked out, the words, barely a whisper. Richard just smiled. A sad, knowing smile. Surprising, isn't it? Life has a funny way of working out. Or in this case, a tragic one. He raised the gun slightly, pointing it first at Lily, then at me. I never wanted this, Emily, I swear. But you were getting too close. And Lily, she's just a child. She doesn't understand. Understand what? I screamed. Understand that you're a monster? That you used us? That you lied to us? I protected you, he roared back, his voice filled with a sudden, raw emotion. Both of you. From a world you don't even know exists. And then, everything changed. The door behind Richard burst open, and a figure stepped into the room. A woman. Tall, elegant, with silver hair and eyes that glittered like ice. "Richard!" she said, her voice cold and commanding. "What is the meaning of this?" Richard's face went white. He lowered the gun, his hand trembling. "Eleanor! What are you doing here?" Eleanor. The name meant nothing to me. But the way Richard looked at her, it was like he'd seen a ghost. "I came to clean up your mess, Richard," she said, stepping closer. "You were supposed to eliminate the threat. Not this." She gestured dismissively at me and Lily. "But Eleanor there," Richard stammered, unable to finish the sentence. Eleanor cut him off with a wave of her hand. "Sentimentality will be the death of you, Richard. Always has been." She turned to me, her eyes piercing and assessing. "Emily, isn't it? You have your mother's eyes. A shame you inherited her weakness as well." My mother? She knew my mother? "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Eleanor smiled. A cruel, chilling smile. "Let's just say I'm someone who's been pulling the strings for a very long time. Someone who's tired of your father's incompetence." She reached into her purse and pulled out a gun, a silenced pistol. She pointed it at Richard. "I'm sorry, Richard," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "But you've become a liability." And then she fired. Richard crumpled to the floor, dead before he hit the ground. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. Lily screamed, burying her face in my leg. Eleanor turned to me, her eyes cold and calculating. "Now, Emily," she said, "let's talk about your future." But before she could say another word, Lily did something I never expected. She raised Walker's gun, the one she'd used to kill the agent, and pointed it at Eleanor. "Leave my mommy alone," she screamed, her voice filled with a rage I'd never heard before. Eleanor laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Oh, honey," she said, "you don't even know what's going on." And then another gunshot. But this time, it didn't come from Lily. It came from me. I don't even remember pulling the trigger. All I remember is the roar of the gun, the smell of gunpowder, and the look of shock on Eleanor's face as she fell to the floor. Dead. Just like Richard, just like Walker. The gun slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor. I stared at my hands, covered in blood, and then at Lily, her eyes wide with terror. What had I done? I had killed them, all of them. The men who had destroyed my life, the women who had threatened my daughter. They were all dead because of me. But it wasn't over, not even close, because as I looked down at Eleanor's lifeless body, I noticed something. Something clutched tightly in her hand. A photograph. I pried her fingers open and took the photograph. It was a picture of me, but not me as I was now. Me as I was years ago, before Lily, before the cons, before everything. And written on the back, in elegant, looping script, was a single word. Sister. Sister. Minha irmã? Como assim, minha irmã? Olhei para a foto, tentando entender. Não era uma foto recente. A garota ali tinha uns 10 anos, talvez. Cabelos loiros, olhos azuis. Completamente diferente de mim. Mas algo familiar. Jeito de sorrir. A ficha caiu, de repente. Lembrei da história que minha mãe contava. Sobre o pai que morreu antes de eu nascer. Mas tinha uma parte que ela nunca contava. Uma irmã. Uma irmã que foi entregue para adoção. Uma irmã que minha mãe nunca superou ter perdido. Eleanor. Eleanor Hawthorne. Minha irmã, a mulher que acabou de morrer ali no chão. A mulher que controlava meu pai. A mulher que era minha família. Lily me abraçava forte, tremendo. Mamãe, o que está acontecendo? Eu não sabia o que dizer. Como explicar para ela que a nossa vida era uma mentira? Que o homem que ela chamava de avô era na verdade meu pai? Que a mulher que ela viu morrer era tia? Tia. A palavra soava estranha na minha boca. Eu nunca tive uma tia. Nunca tive uma irmã. Mas agora eu tinha, ou melhor, tinha tido. Precisava sair dali. Precisávamos. Aquela casa estava amaldiçoada, cheia de segredos, de mortes, de família. Peguei Lily no colo, ignorei os corpos no chão. Precisava pensar. Precisava descobrir o que fazer. Saímos da mansão, entramos no carro. Dirigi sem rumo, as lágrimas escorrendo pelo meu rosto. Para onde ir? Em quem confiar? De repente meu celular tocou. Um número desconhecido. Hesitei, mas atendi. Emily Carter? A voz era rouca masculina. Quem é? Não importa quem eu sou. Importa que eu sei a verdade. Sobre você, sobre sua irmã, sobre seu pai. Senti um calafrio. O que você quer? Quero te ajudar, mas você precisa me encontrar. Sozinha. Sem a garota. Onde? Ele me deu um endereço. Um armazém abandonado nos arredores da cidade. Amanhã, ao meio-dia. Não se atrase. A ligação caiu. Olhei para Lily, dormindo no banco de trás. Não podia deixá-la sozinha, mas também não podia levá-la comigo. Quem era aquele homem? Como ele sabia de tudo? E o que ele queria? Tantas perguntas e nenhuma resposta. Mas uma coisa eu sabia. Eu ia descobrir, por Lily, por mim e por Eleanor, minha irmã. Amanhã, ao meio-dia, o armazém abandonado. O inferno estava apenas começando. Sister, minha irmã? Tipo, como assim minha irmã? Olhei para a foto, tentando processar. Não era uma foto recente. Não, a menina ali devia ter uns 10 anos talvez. Cabelo loiro, olho azul. Nada a ver comigo. Mas tinha um quê familiar. Um jeito de sorrir. O formato do queixo. A ficha caiu. De repente. A história que minha mãe contava sobre o pai que morreu antes de eu nascer. Mas tinha um pedaço que ela nunca contava. Uma irmã. Uma irmã que foi dada para adoção. Uma irmã que a minha mãe nunca superou ter perdido. Eleanor. Eleanor Hawthorne. Minha irmã. A mulher que estava ali, morta no chão. A mulher que controlava meu pai. A mulher que era da minha família. Lily me apertava forte, tremendo. Mami, o que está acontecendo? Eu não sabia o que falar. Como explicar para ela que a vida da gente era uma mentira? Que o cara que ela chamava de vovô era na verdade meu pai? Que a mulher que ela tinha visto morrer era tia? Tia? Que palavra estranha na minha boca. Eu nunca tive tia. Nunca tive irmã. Mas agora eu tinha. Ou, sei lá, tinha tido. Tinha que sair dali. A gente tinha que sair. Aquela casa estava amaldiçoada, cheia de segredo, de morte, de família. Peguei a Lily no colo, nem liguei para os corpos no chão. Precisava pensar. Precisava dar um jeito. Saímos da mansão. Entramos no carro. Dirigi sem rumo com a lágrima caindo. Para onde ir? Em quem confiar? De repente o celular tocou. Um número que eu não conhecia. Fiquei na dúvida, mas atendi. Emily Carter. A voz era grossa, de homem. Quem fala? Não importa quem eu sou. O que importa é que eu sei a verdade. Sobre você, sobre a sua irmã, sobre o seu pai. Senti um arrepio. O que você quer? Quero ajudar, mas você precisa me encontrar, sozinha, sem a garota. Onde? Ele me deu um endereço. Um galpão abandonado lá pelos cafundós da cidade. Amanhã, meio-dia. Não se atrase. E desligou. Olhei para Lily, dormindo ali atrás. Não podia deixar ela sozinha. Mas também não podia levá-la comigo. Quem era esse cara? Como ele sabia de tudo? E o que ele queria? Tanta pergunta e nenhuma resposta. Mas uma coisa eu sabia. Eu ia descobrir. Pela Lily, por mim e pela Eleanor, minha irmã. Amanhã, meio-dia, no galpão abandonado. O inferno estava só começando. Amanhã, meio-dia. Aquele cara, quem era ele? E por que sabia tanta coisa? Olhei para Lily, dormindo no banco de trás. Tão pequena, tão inocente. Não podia levar ela para aquele lugar. Mas deixar sozinha me corroía por dentro. Cheguei num motel barato na beira da estrada. Um quarto fedido, com cheiro de cigarro e mofo. Deixei Lily dormindo. Tranquei a porta com cadeado e corrente. Volto logo, meu amor, sussurrei. Aquele galpão era um buraco no meio do nada. Janelas quebradas, pichações por toda parte, um cheiro forte de urina e lixo. Fui entrando, com o coração na mão. Alguém aí? Uma sombra se moveu no fundo do galpão. Um cara alto, magro, com um chapéu que escondia o rosto. Você é Emily Carter? Sou. Quem é você? O cara deu um passo para frente. E eu congelei. Era Jason. Jason Hawthorne, o filho do Richard. O cara que tinha me acusado de golpista. O cara que tinha trazido a polícia. Surpresa, ele disse, com um sorriso torto. Você, o que você quer? Justiça, ele respondeu. Pelo meu pai, pela minha tia. Sua tia? Sim, ele respondeu. Eleanor era minha mãe. E você matou os dois. Eu não conseguia acreditar. Jason, filho da Eleanor, irmão da minha irmã. Aquela família era mais enrolada que nó de marinheiro. Eu não sabia, tentei dizer. Não importa. Ele me interrompeu. Você vai pagar, por tudo. Jason tirou uma arma da cintura. Uma arma grande, prateada. Jason, espera, gritei. Podemos conversar. Já conversamos demais, ele respondeu. Ele apontou a arma para mim. Fechei os olhos. Era o fim. Mas o tiro não veio. Abri os olhos. Jason estava paralisado, com uma faca cravada nas costas. Ele caiu no chão, morto. Olhei em volta, desesperada. Quem tinha feito aquilo? E então eu vi uma figura saindo das sombras. Uma mulher, alta, magra, com cabelos loiros e olhos azuis. Eleanor, sussurrei. Mas não era Eleanor. Era uma cópia dela, só que mais jovem, mais viva. Quem é você? Perguntei. A mulher sorriu. Um sorriso frio, calculista. Meu nome é Evelyn, ela respondeu. E eu sou a verdadeira irmã da Eleanor e sua, Evelyn, a verdadeira irmã. A história toda, as mortes, as mentiras, Richard, Eleanor, Jason. Tudo fazia parte de um plano muito, muito maior. Era como se a minha vida fosse uma peça de dominó prestes a ser derrubada. E eu estava prestes a descobrir que a pessoa que eu achava que era, não era quem eu realmente pensava ser. A minha mãe tinha me escondido tanta coisa, e agora a verdade estava prestes a vir à tona. Ela sorriu de novo. E você, Emily, tem um papel muito importante a desempenhar. E você, Emily, tem um papel muito importante a desempenhar. Eva, quem era aquela mulher? Papel importante? Que história é essa? Perguntei, tentando manter a calma, mas meu coração batia como um tambor. Ela sorriu, um sorriso que não alcançava os olhos. Você é a chave, Emily. A chave para tudo. Chave para quê? E então ela me contou a história toda. Uma história tão louca, tão inacreditável, que eu quase caí dura ali mesmo. Richard, Eleanor, não eram só criminosos. Eram parte de uma sociedade secreta. Uma sociedade que controlava o mundo. Riqueza, poder, influência. Eles tinham tudo. E Evelyn era a líder. E minha mãe, onde ela entra nessa história? Evelyn suspirou. Sua mãe. É um erro. Uma distração para Richard. Ele nunca deveria ter se envolvido com ela. E por isso vocês a abandonaram? Por isso inventaram que meu pai estava morto? Era para o bem dela, Emily. E para o seu. Meu sangue ferveu. Meu bem, vocês destruíram a minha vida. Usaram a mim e a minha filha como peões nesse jogo doentio. Não se faça de vítima, Evelyn retrucou. Você sempre teve o potencial para ser grande, Emily. Agora é a chance de provar isso. Que chance? De me juntar a vocês? De ser igual a vocês? Cuspi as palavras. Evelyn riu. Não seja tola. Você não tem escolha, a não ser que queira ver sua filha morta. Lily, meu mundo parou. Não ouse encostar um dedo nela. Então você vai colaborar? Eu hesitei. O que eu podia fazer? Estava encurralada. Eu preciso de tempo. Tempo é um luxo que você não tem, Emily. De repente, a porta do galpão se abriu e um homem entrou. Um homem que eu conhecia muito bem. Agente Walker. Mas como? Eu vi Lily atirar nela. Eu vi o corpo. Walker sorriu um sorriso frio e calculista. Surpresa, Emily. Achou mesmo que eu ia morrer tão fácil? Eu estava chocada. Não conseguia entender nada. Walker? Você está trabalhando com eles? Ela riu. Digamos que eu tenho os meus próprios motivos. E então, Walker fez algo que me deixou completamente sem chão. Ela se virou para Evelyn e se ajoelhou. Minha senhora, disse Walker, com a voz cheia de respeito. As ordens foram cumpridas. Minha senhora? Walker era subordinada da Evelyn? A minha cabeça explodiu. Nada fazia sentido. Evelyn sorriu para Walker. Bom trabalho, agente. Você provou ser muito útil. Agente? Walker era uma agente infiltrada? Mas de quem? E então, Evelyn se virou para mim e disse as palavras que mudariam a minha vida para sempre. Emily, ela disse com a voz suave como seda. É hora de você conhecer a sua verdadeira família. E ela apontou para Walker. Essa é a sua mãe, Emily. Aquela agente fria e calculista. A minha mãe? Não. Não podia ser verdade. Não, isso não é verdade. Eu gritei, desesperada. Mas Evelyn apenas sorriu. E Walker? Walker me olhou com um olhar gélido, sem qualquer traço de emoção. Bem-vinda à família, filha. Bem-vinda à família, filha. Mãe? Aquela mulher fria, assassina, minha mãe? Impossível. Mas o olhar dela, gélido, calculista, era um espelho do meu medo, de quem eu sempre temi me tornar. Não, não pode ser, sussurrei, as lágrimas queimando. Meus olhos. Lily me abraçou forte, tremendo. Mami, o que está acontecendo? Eu não sabia o que dizer. Como explicar que minha vida era uma teia de mentiras, que a mulher que eu odiava era minha mãe? Sinto muito que tenha descoberto assim, Emily. Walker disse, a voz suave, quase carinhosa. Mas era hora de você conhecer a verdade. Verdade? Que verdade? A verdade era que eu não sabia quem eu era. Não sabia em quem confiar. A verdade era que eu tinha perdido tudo. Por quê? Perguntei, a voz embargada. Por que me esconder isso? Walker suspirou. Era complicado, querida. Você não entenderia. Mas agora? Sim, agora você pode ter tudo. Poder, riqueza, influência. Juntos podemos dominar o mundo. Dominar o mundo? Cuspi as palavras. Eu não quero dominar o mundo. Eu só quero uma vida normal. Para mim e para minha filha. Walker riu. Vida normal? Isso não existe, Emily. Você é diferente. Você é especial. Você nasceu para mais. Eu não quero ser especial, gritei. Eu só quero ser feliz. De repente, um alarme soou. Luzes vermelhas começaram a piscar. O que está acontecendo? Evelyn perguntou. A voz tensa. Estamos sendo invadidos, Walker respondeu. A polícia! Droga! Evelyn praguejou. Temos que sair daqui. Ela olhou para mim. Sinto muito, Emily. Mas as coisas ficaram complicadas demais. Não podemos te levar conosco. Ela fez um sinal para Walker, e então a minha mãe apontou uma arma para mim. Adeus, filha, ela disse, com um sorriso triste. Fechei os olhos. Era o fim. Mas o tiro não veio. Abri os olhos. Walker estava caída no chão, com uma faca cravada no peito. Evelyn estava parada atrás dela, com a faca ensanguentada na mão. Eu não posso deixar você fazer isso, Evelyn, ela disse, a voz embargada. Ela é minha filha. Evelyn olhou para mim, com um olhar de ódio. Você é uma tola, Walker. Você sempre foi. E então, ela desapareceu. Sumiu nas sombras como um fantasma. Olhei para Walker, caída no chão. Ela estava sangrando muito. Mãe, sussurrei, as lágrimas escorrendo pelo meu rosto. Ela sorriu, um sorriso fraco. Cuide-se, filha, e cuide da sua filha. E então, ela fechou os olhos. Para sempre. Peguei Lily no colo e corri para fora do galpão. A polícia estava por toda parte. Sirenes, luzes, gritos. Era um caos. Entrei no carro e dirigi o mais rápido que pude. Precisava sumir. Precisava proteger a minha filha. Dirigi por horas, sem parar, até chegar numa cidadezinha pequena, no meio do nada. Aluguei um chalé simples, com vista para as montanhas. Lá comecei uma nova vida. Uma vida simples, tranquila. Sem segredos, sem mentiras. Dei a Lily todo o amor e carinho que ela merecia. Ensinei a ela a importância da honestidade, da bondade, da compaixão. Contei a ela sobre a minha história, sobre a minha família, sobre os erros que eu cometi, sobre as escolhas que eu fiz. E Lily me perdoou. Ela entendeu. Ela sabia que eu tinha feito tudo por ela. Anos se passaram. Lily cresceu. Se tornou uma mulher forte e independente. Ela se casou, teve filhos, me deu netos lindos que me encheram de alegria. Eu finalmente encontrei a paz, a felicidade. Mas, às vezes à noite, quando o silêncio tomava conta da casa, eu me pegava pensando em Evelyn, em Richard, em Eleanor, em Walker. Pensava em todas as vidas que foram perdidas, em todas as escolhas que eu fiz, e me perguntava, será que eu fiz a coisa certa? Será que eu realmente escapei do passado? Ou será que ele ainda me assombraria para sempre? A verdade, eu nunca vou saber. Mas uma coisa eu aprendi: o passado pode nos definir, mas não precisa nos aprisionar. Podemos escolher o nosso futuro. Podemos escolher quem queremos ser. E eu escolhi ser feliz. Por mim, por Lily e por todas as mulheres da minha família que não tiveram essa chance. Mas e você? Vai continuar aí parado, esperando o próximo dominó cair? Ou vai tomar as rédeas da sua vida agora? Você precisa se inscrever imediatamente no canal. Histórias como essa, só aqui. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre que você entendeu a mensagem. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas teorias. Qual o segredo da família Hawthorne? Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar este vídeo com 5 amigos. Eles precisam conhecer esse final. Este é o momento de mostrar seu apoio. Só os verdadeiros fãs entendem.